So I don't know why this is weird. I'm used to speaking to people. I'm saying I'm a lot. So my name is Richard McKinsey, and I proudly serve at the Open Door Mission as the Career Guidance and Education Department Manager. I guess I'll give a brief story of my journey or my testimony. I've often heard that people love a good comeback story, a triumphant story, but gosh, when you are in the middle of pure chaos, you never truly expect it to be the way that it is, or you don't expect that story to play out the way that it does, and you don't expect things to go to the way that they do. Growing up in my family and around the people that I was raised with, if anyone had ever bet or picked out, yep, that kid right there, that kid is going to be an addict, no one ever would have guessed that or presumed that. And I don't know if it was the aspect of the portrayal in which I portrayed myself, or is the way that you carry yourself, is the way that you speak, is the way that you think, is it your mannerisms, is it all the things that make you you? My journey, I would like to say, is different, but I don't think it's different than any of my fellow brothers that have suffered from or been plagued by, ill by any type of substance abuse disorder. I know I myself, I personally never would have said, yep, I'm going to be successful one day. I'm going to do well in life. I'm going to make everybody proud. And then and everything crashes. And I don't mean to laugh. That's one of those awkward laughs because you don't know how to express things or how to say it. But I had a good life growing up. I did. We grew up in the church, born and raised active in the church, participating active in school, made good grades. I guess I would presume myself to be somewhat likable. And it was nice. Mom and dad at home, younger sister. And I look back in those moments now and I try to figure out what happened or what was it or were there signs? Is there something that I could have done? And I think that's the one thing that I've ran that tape constantly, consistently over through my mind. And it always boils down to, is it the substance or is it me? And so it intellect and overthinking, overanalyzing, been overly critical have always been a gift and a curse at the same time because when you're overly analytical, you find things that sometimes aren't there, or you can correct things that sometimes are there. But when you have that perception of yourself and you start picking up on different things about you and areas in which you're different rather than areas in which you're like me, you often tend to lean towards a substance. And I mean, I've had substance abuse running my family, and oh man, I swore to myself that I would never use a substance. And I tried a few different things when I was 15, and it was off and on. I was like, yeah, it's not really for me. And I turned 21, and I'm celebrating, and I'm like, oh man, the smell of alcohol, the taste of alcohol, I'm like, it's not really for me. And so I tried something else, and that drink perception is a heck of a thing because for myself, that substance, it made me feel like I was perceived to be funnier and that I was more accepted and that people want to be around me more and I was a little looser. And it was always me chasing a substance to fill the inadequacies that I felt in myself. And so the thing that I swore to myself that I would never do, I found myself down a journey in which I was plagued by it to where something I thought at one instance in my life I had control over, it now seemed to have control over me. It went from moments of, I'll do this to celebrate. Now I'll do this when I'm sad, or I'll do this when I'm angry, or I'll just do it just because I can and because it's there and because it's accessible. And the one thing about addiction, amongst the many, is addiction doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care what's your race, ethnicity, what's your background, socioeconomic status. You can be rich, you can be poor. Addiction does not discriminate. And I found it out quickly because as I drifted more into the realm of addiction, the more I saw that I gave things away to it. I was married and I have children and I have a business and you have cars, you have homes, and everyone's proud. And I think the thing is that the addiction suffocates you to where now you're using just to be able to go out to feel somewhat comfortable. And if I would have known anywhere near the beginning that addiction, that you give and you feed addiction, and that monster steadily grows and it lays dormant until eventually it has enough energy to run rampant. You don't see all those things when you're in the middle of it. You don't see those things while you're in the midst of it. You don't really pay attention to that because you're oblivious. You don't pay attention to the hurt, the pain that you cause to those that you quote unquote say that you love that surround you. All that you know now is that this makes me happy and I like being happy. So if everyone else doesn't like it, then that's their problem. That's not mine. But it oftentimes now I sit back and I reflect and I'm like, would I have held my son just a little closer? Would I have been there for my daughter just a tad bit more? You see, no one tells you when you drift off into the realm of addiction that those moments that you think are going to be precious, that you're going to sacrifice those just to feed yourself just a little bit more. Because it's not about everybody else. It's not about the people that depend on you. It's not about the people that you say you care about. But it truly only becomes about yourself. When I tell my loved ones that, hey, I love you before you're gone, and I wish that you could see me sober now. You tell your parents that you're sorry for all the hurt that you caused along the way. How do you tell your kids that? How do you explain that to your kids? That's something that I constantly battle with, back and forth, day after day. Do you tell them daddy was sick? Do you tell them that you're good enough, but in that moment, daddy was just too selfish to realize that everything that I had in my life, it was it was enough. So for me, was it addiction or was it pride and was it ego? Was it arrogance that made me say more, more, more that this isn't enough, that wasn't enough? Is it the substance or is it me finding inadequacies to where I need the attention of the world rather than the one that made me? So, God, this story is crazy. So, when you get to the point to where life is just life and you don't feel like life anymore and you feel like you're dying every day that you wake up and you no longer want to live and you look at available options. But you still hear a small voice in the corner saying, "Come to me, that you're enough, that I got you, that I can handle this. If you let me, that I'll take this and I'll let you see what the world can be, and I'll make you better than what you thought you could be, and I'll strengthen you, and I'll encourage you, I'll uplift you, I'll guide you, I'll be your friend, but yet you still chase everything else." So is it one of those things of you build up things as many times just to see how many times you can knock them back down? Is it that aspect of, hey guys, I'm sober now, I'm sorry, I'm going to be right this time? Or do you go back to the aspect of letting your actions speak louder than your words? So I don't know if my story is much different than anybody else's story, and I don't know how do things go. And I can't, I need to get some tissue. I can't say cut, but hold on. Guess I should have got that before I started. But I wish that things could have been different, but I thank God that He's allowed me to find purpose in the pain, that there's joy in the journey, and that amazing things can and will happen if you truly surrender. Because it takes something greater than yourself to overcome and battle addiction. Because clearly, the way I was doing it, I couldn't do it on my own. Because if I could have, I would have stopped when I wanted to stop the first few times. So for myself, it's one heart attack and two strokes later, by the grace of God, that I've truly been able to stand here today. You talk about the aspects of how you had it. You went from sleeping in homes to being on the streets, or even sleeping in county. Uh, One thing that addiction has taught me is that I can't make up for the past, but as of right here, right now, today, I can do the best I can to change as many things as I can, not just by myself, but by serving the people that I work with on a daily basis. So I said previously that people love a good comeback story. So at 22, I had a stroke, and I'm in the hospital, and I have a caseworker, and they're getting ready to discharge me. They said, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm going home." And my intentions on if I went home was, I can't do this. This hurts too much. Everything hurts. I want to stop, but I can't. And the thing, the good I want to do, I don't. And so my parents were out of town, and they came to see me to look me in my face, and they said, "Our phones will be off, but we just want you to know we love you." And I tell my caseworker this, and she's like, "Hey, I don't think that's a good idea." And I said, "Well, you can't tell me I'm going home." And somehow she gets in contact with my parents, and she puts them on the phone, and they're like, "Please just go." And I was a frequent flyer when it comes to treatment centers. And I tell everybody, and this is one thing I had to tell myself is, I have to want this for me. I can't do it for anybody else. I have to do this for me. And so the next day, as I talked to my parents, they're like, "Go." I'm like, "What is open door mission?" And they gave me a pass to come here, and on the pass, they put to the cab driver, they said, "Do not make any stops. Take them directly there." And so I get in, and I hear the gate close behind me, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, where am I at?" And I feel like I was being closed in, but in a way I was, because I was surrounded by people for one of the first times in my entire life that knew what I was going through, that understood it, and was judgment free. And he said, "Well, if this place was that amazing, you've been here twice." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I've been here twice, but I've been here twice due to no fault of anybody else's but my own." Because once again, pride and ego, I didn't let go. the Bible tells me if any man be in Christ, he's a new creation. And so I can't be a new creation still holding on to old ideas and old ideas of who I am. So I make it through the program and I gain employment and I gain employment here. And I'm like, yes, this is amazing. I get to do what I love to do. I'm around people that love me. And then pride and ego creeps up again and says, okay, you got this. You can handle this. You can manage this. And one thing I've learned about addiction will use any form that it can to get your attention to say, hey, let's just take a drive or a ride on a wild side. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good now. I'll pass. And I started working there and I gave in. And before I knew it, I was right back in the wind and things were worse than what they were before. And honestly, this time I didn't know if I would make it back because I think this time it was real. And you think about, oh man, because guilt and remorse and shame and regret and fear, they all have a way of creeping back in to make you feel like you're incompetent. And all those feelings of worthlessness and hurt, they came back quick. And I ran as far and as fast as I could to get away. Because once again, I felt like I had let everyone down and I had no value and that I was worthless. And that entire time, God is still there. My friends are still there to say, you got this. You just got to get up. And the Bible tells me it's not about how many times a man falls, but it's about how many times a man can get up. And God knows I've fallen so many times. But I thank God for being there to lift me up each and every time after that. So this time I took a journey, and I'll spare you all the boring details, but I eventually found my way back, and I had stopped by, I was somewhere else, and I stopped by for a visit. And they were like, when are you coming back? I'm like, no, 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 I'm good. I don't need to go back. But I came back, and I sat at the other place, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm thinking, I'm like, God, I don't know anymore. And the only thing I could hear God tell me was, let go. Oh my God, I'm afraid. He's like, I got this. I'm like, God, he said, that's the issue. You keep saying I when it's me. And the moment that you decide to let go and you let me do what I do best, because you see, if you allow me to, I created you and I knew you before you knew you. And all those things that you carry, all the feelings of shame, all those feelings of guilt, all those feelings of remorse, all that bit of anger and hurt and pride and ego, if you give me the opportunity and you give me the chance, I can show you a better way and I can give you a better life. And so I came back. Do I say I was humiliated? Do I say I was humble? Or should I say that I was grateful? Because God had perfected in human form everything that I was looking for and everything that I could find, whether it was in people, whether it was in a substance. God allowed me to find it in this facility because the people were here and they cared about me and they loved me in spite of me. And the Spirit of God truly is here. And I want to change this time. I want it to be better. And I want it to be the version of myself that my kids see. And I've done things in life, but no matter what, my kids have always seen the best in me. Later on in the day, and I'm like, if you can see the best in me, I'm like, God, there's got to be something in that. And I'm like, whatever image that is that you have, I want to be able to be that. And so I humbled myself. I'm trying to say God humbled me, and my situations humbled me, and oh, life humbled me. And it wasn't no longer about status or title or fame or fortune. It was just about Richard accepting Richard and Richard being a son, a father, a friend, a brother. And I got in and I thought things were just dragging. Before I knew it, I blinked. And it's crazy. I wish I had brought it down. It's not crazy. I guess we use terms when we don't know the right words to say. Inexplicable, a blessing, amazing. that at the beginning of May, you see, because here we have to quote Jeremiah 29:11. It says, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not harm you, to give you hope in the future. So for myself, I put things to that test in my life to see that if it's harmful, it's not God. If it brings me away from God, then it's not Him either. So now I ask God that, God, if it's for me and if it's in your will and it won't take me away from you, then I don't want it. But I wrote God a letter and it's still upstairs in my office in my Bible. My office, me with office. Who would have thought? I'll get to that in a minute. But I wrote a letter and I told God, I said, God, I don't want to be like this anymore. I want to live the life that you want me to live. And greater is He that's in me, that's He in the world. God, if you decrease me, that I can just be humble. Just fill me up with you. And so I told God, I said, God, if you give me another opportunity, if you let me work there, I promise I'll do right. If you let me be a part of my children's lives, I promise I'll do right. And the list went on and on. But I said, most importantly, I said, if any of this takes me away from you, if any of this brings back the old version of myself, then God, I don't want it. And so I signed that petition and I stuck it in my Bible and I read it every single day, right as I read Jeremiah 29:11. And lo and behold, June comes around and I'm out there and I'm like, hey, this position is open. Would you be willing to take the opportunity? And I'm thinking, yeah, I would. I'm like, yeah. Like, this is what I wanted. But God had constantly shown me that if you step out of the way, if you humble yourself, if you be obedient, if you take care of the quote unquote small things, that I'll give you an overflow, that I'm still the same God of yesterday, today, and forevermore, that I never leave you, but you leave me. And so I'm sitting here and I'm waiting on you to come back home. And so I'll tell anybody now that if I have a notion of anything that might pull me away from the goodness of God and all that God is doing in my life still to this very day, then I don't want it. You see, because I can't fix my yesterday and I can't worry about tomorrow, but as of right now, right here, what will I do? So as I said previously, I get to work with amazing people like myself each and every day. I get to see that light, the same light that went off in my eyes. I get to see that go off in their eyes on a daily basis. I get to be a son again and a brother. But I also get to be a father. I'm someone that if my kids call now, they know that daddy isn't going anywhere. And nobody has to worry about me anymore. My family members that didn't get to see me in the present. It gets to this point, I know they're looking down on me now. I'm just happy. I found a sense of purpose in this pain. I found a sense of self worth. I found a greater appreciation for life. I found myself, and I only found myself because I found God. And I tell everyone there's a difference between knowing of God and knowing God. Because anybody that ever truly has an encounter with Him, you don't ever leave the same. So how do you tell God thank you for saving your life? There's different passages in the Bible. God says, I'll give you beauty for ashes. And I thought I had destroyed everything in my life. But I truly see the beauty in situations now. Each and every day. Oh, each and every way. I tell myself I want to grab a look at it because it's amazing when God changes something from death to life. You don't just get a new lease on life, but you get a whole new life entirely. I like being present. I enjoy being dependable. I like when I call people now, you don't worry if I'm calling on nonsense or if I'm out there in the wind again. I like stability and I like peace, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my friends, for my family. If people ask what is the open door mission, it's something you truly have to see for yourself because miracles happen here every day, and I'm one of them. I always say salvation, sobriety, and sanity. Those are the gifts that I was given because Jesus paid the price for me. And so I freely share those with everyone else along the way. Oh man. I'm pretty sure he'll cut some of this just so you don't see me cry the entire time, but it's just amazing to be out of that cycle of despair and of grief and remorse to finally have hope. And for the longest, everyone tells you that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and for the longest, it seemed like that tunnel is darker and darker and darker. I feel like a Rocky, and then one scene from the movie when you finally make it up to the top, you're like, oh God, I did it. We did it. So do I. Is everything the way that I wanted to be in life at this current moment? Now, no, but I'm sure I'm grateful to God that it's the way that I need for it to be. I am grateful beyond measure. I have a peace that surpasses all understanding. People like me again. Oh man, that's a blessing. Uh, I'm a present father and friend and son, and people know now if you call me that I'll be there. I get to serve as an education and career guidance manager, and me. I look at myself and say, God, me? And God says, why not you? Why not you? And so in life, we often think that our stories are going to go one way and the life's going to be one way. But when God is in the mix and we finally let go, it's amazing where you'll end up and the things that you'll see. And I'm grateful because I've been in places I never would have been, met people I never would have met, and seen things I never would have seen. Thanks to God and the open door mission. I don't worry now what tomorrow holds because I live here in this moment for today. Because when life starts to life, and it will, what will I do? You see, because complaining is easy. And for myself, going back to a substance, that's the easy decision to sit back and to let it take hold again. But been a man, I've been a man of God, standing on God's word, I've been a man of integrity and character and all these other things. You push through, you fight, you pull up your pants and you press through, you persevere. That's key. You reach out for help when you need it. You talk to someone. So before I begin to ramble, if you want to know if things are bad, yeah, they were bad, but I thank God because things are amazing now. Better than I could ever thought, dream, or imagine. So this isn't a story of great sorrow, but this is a story of great triumph when you surrender and you submit and you commit and you find purpose and you drive and you push every single day. I don't know who this will be shown to. I don't know who will see this and who will listen to this, but if you're going through substance abuse yourself, just know it change is possible and it can happen. If you want it, it can and will happen. To my brothers that watch this, you can do this. God's got you. You're able to push through it. Just fight a little longer. To my fellow colleagues, thank y'all for never giving up on me, giving me the opportunity to fight and push back. To my family, thank you. To my children, thank you for seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself and helping me realize who I could be. Most importantly, to God, thank you for that being a voice in that wind and in all that chaos. You were still there in the midst, covering, protecting, leading, guiding. Even when I didn't want to see you, you've been there. So if you didn't know, my name is Richard McKinsey. I'm saved, sane, and sober. I'm the Education and Career Guidance Manager here at the Open Door Mission, where I get to serve on a daily basis. And if you ever want to know what the Open Door Mission is and what it does, just look at me. I am the Open Door Mission.